Hello, good morning, and welcome to Queens. Let's talk about domestic violence. I'm a survivor. Zoom event. And I was chatting earlier with guests on the platform, and I was saying it's quite poignant now that we're actually talking about this particular subject area this morning. This week, we've heard about the murder of a young girl in southeast London. And it's interesting things that drop into spirit because on the news, they've been talking about the new domestic violence bill that's going to be coming out, and it's going to encapsulate a lot of the sort of like subtle things that happen in the world of domestic violence. And the presenters that we have this morning on the platform, their stories, their journey, it's really deep. It's inspiring. It's touching. So please embrace yourself and get ready. This morning is going to be an absolutely phenomenal morning. We have 4 presenters, and I wanted to keep this morning's Zoom because the subject is so deep, and it was about giving people time to talk about their journey. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being on another Queen's Saturday early morning rocking vibe Zoom session. I always say every week, have your pens and pads ready, notebooks, because you always get enriching information signposted to organisations that might be able to help you to tap into, particular subject areas. Please post any questions into the chat. Nadia, my fantastic co-host, Radia runs an organisation called the Black Help Group, and she will be monitoring the chat for me, as she does wonderfully. There will be a Q&A at the end, and this will be an opportunity for you as guests on the platform to ask any questions, from our panelists. So again, a big welcome. Thank you for joining us. I should be saying good evening, good night, because we have people from all over the world that tune into the Zoom event. Excuse me. And I'm just so looking forward to it. So let me tell you a bit about why, and I say it every week, but for the newbies, our new sister queens, and if there's any kings on the platform, we are predominantly a walking group. Created the walking group in June 2020, and to cut a long story short, the first cohort we did 10,000 steps, then we did 15,000 steps, then we did 20,000 steps as a group. 1 week we'd line dance, we'd walk to a park somewhere, we'd line dance, and then on another week we would do leg bums and tums. And my 2 fantastic presenters are here on the platform, Josie and Mary. And we'd have speakers come in. But when it got to the end of October and the government implemented the one person could only meet with another person from a different household to walk and exercise, we had to stop because we're predominantly a group of about 35, 40 women hyped on a Saturday morning, ready to just step. Yeah. So you just see us step in our fantastic T-shirts, Queen's Walking Group, that's what we're called. We're called the Queen's Walking Group, based in Southeast London. And unfortunately, as I say, when the government changed the legislation, we had to stop the walking group. Well, not stop, but we kind of like postponed the walking group temporarily. So I had to learn how to Zoom pretty quick. So we Zoom on a Saturday morning, and we've done a whole raft of different subject areas. So the first one was Queen's Black Hair Rocks. We've done Queen's Breaking the Silence to talk about mental health. We've done last week, in actual fact, we did Queen's, and it was so poignant because it was a message from the Kings in line with International Women's Day. And what a phenomenal session that was. Absolutely magnificent. We have a wealth of different Zoom events coming up. So we've got Queen's International, Queen's Black Hair Rocks again, and that's going to be fun. Oh, I'll tell you, amazing. We're going to have barbers, hairdressers, nail technicians, anybody in the beauty industry. That's what that particular Zoom is going to be all about. And it's going to be about celebrating us and our beauty. Yeah. Whether, you know, the nails, the hair, the things that make us just rock as queens. Yeah. That's what we're going to be doing when it comes to Queen's International Black Hair Rocks. So that's going to be in a few weeks' time. We're going to continue the Queen's Health Talks. So we're going to be talking about pain. We're going to be talking about blood pressure, diabetes, all those subjects are going to be coming. We're going to continue, we'll have another Black Business Expo, which will probably be around the end of March, April time. And we're going to actually do a spiritual retreat. There's just so many things we're going to be doing on Zoom. So, you know, please follow us on Eventbrite, Queen's Walking Group. So you'll get the automatic notifications, you know, for when our events are launched. Yeah, so we normally launch it on a Wednesday or early hours of Thursday morning. This Zoom event is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you go on YouTube and look for Queen's 2020 Lockdown Series, you should be able to find it. And most of the Zoom recordings are now up on the channel. And people are just, I'm getting people contacting me from all over the world now, you know, wanting to connect with us and asking questions. I know they're connected with like past presenters, which is fantastic. And that's what it's about. Us as a people connecting up. And that's one of the really, you know, phenomenal things that's happened with the whole YouTube Zooming experience. So yes, I'm excited. So let's get into today's session. Queens, let's talk about domestic violence. I'm a survivor. Do not suffer in silence. You are not alone. We understand and we believe you. So often we'll say, you know, women will say, you know, this is happening to them, that's happening to them. And it might fall on deaf ears or people just are not hearing what you're saying. Anyone can experience domestic abuse, domestic violence, regardless of their background. So from the aristocrat to, you know, whoever's somebody working in a store, wherever, this behavior, yeah, can happen to anybody. Domestic abuse can be physical, sexual, psychological, emotional, or financial abuse in an intimate relationship. Yeah. Or it could be family type, you know, FGM, honor-based abuse. It all sits under this umbrella of, you know, domestic violence. This session will provide guests with information and guidance on domestic abuse. We'll be covering particular themes, types of domestic violence and abuse, risk factors for domestic abuse, key principles for helping victims, the impact of domestic abuse on children, young people, and vulnerable adults, barriers to seeking help, and how to address them. So we have got a wealth of, you know, expertise on the platform who are going to share their experiences, and also professionals who work with victims of domestic abuse. So get ready, guests on the platform. You're in for an absolutely amazing, phenomenal session. So let me give a quick shout out to my panelists, so you know they're in the house. Colette Allen.
Hi, everybody.
You could unmute yourself. Yeah. So if you could say a quick hello to the guests on the platform and just say who you are, and then I'll just quickly introduce the others.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, kings and queens. My name again is Colette Allen, and I am a integrative counsellor by profession, but previously worked in domestic abuse for well over 15 years. So I come with not only professional expertise, but also personal expertise as well. So my presentation will be geared around sort of a basic introduction into domestic abuse. My apologies for those who already know quite a bit, but I wanted to pitch it somewhere so that everyone would have an understanding and we can get questions coming out from there on in, okay? So,
wonderful, thank you, my darling. And we have the wonderful Barkay Faraj Kamas. So hi, Barkay, if you quickly say hello, introduce yourself to the guests on the platform.
Hello, queens and kings. Thank you, everyone, to be here. And John, thank you for this lovely platform that you created. And I'm a founder of Barke Be Your Own Hero. This comes along because of my experience that I'll be talking about it today. And now I am actually helping women and girls to be their own hero and to live the life they deserve. So I am here and I'm looking forward to actually open up my space and my experience to every one of you to inspire and empower and to actually to bring self-awareness and also to support. So thank
Fantastic.
you so much.
Thank you very, very much, my darling. Michael Watson.
Oh, good morning. Hello. Thank you, Joan. Thanks for the introduction. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my views, my skills and expertise on this platform. It's my first time here, but thank you and good morning to everyone. I am a qualified social worker. I'm an independent social worker, which means I do assessments in the court. I'm seen as an expert in the court, an expert witness in the court. I'm also an author. So my presentation will be focusing from a professional expertise, looking at how children are affected by domestic abuse, which is really all the cases I do. All my work involves some degree of domestic violence. Often it's a lot of domestic violence. So I'll be talking from that perspective, and I hope to get a lot out of it. And I hope you all get a lot out of what I'm saying and what all the other speakers are saying. So thank you very much.
Sure we will. Thank you very much, Michael. And Ursula Myrie, where are you, my darling?
Hi, morning everyone. My name's Ursula Myrie. I am the founder of Adira, which is an award-winning survivor-led mental health and wellbeing service that supports Black people with mental health issues.
Welcome, welcome. So you're all here in the house. Thank you very, very much for joining me this morning on such a very interesting topic. And for me, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we did a session called Queen Supporting Our Children and Young People in the Current Crisis. So sometimes you've got to be sort of like thinking outside of the box. But in a pandemic, so it was really, you know, what could we do as parents, grandparents to support our children? And when this dropped into my spirit, and, you know, when you think about, you know, we're on lockdown, the amount of women, and I know men get abused as well, but predominantly women who are being battered or financially, you know, psychologically, in a way, and I use the word tortured, because it must be an absolute nightmare to have this kind of, you know, thing going on in your life. So without further ado, let's get started. Colette, my darling, you are our first presenter this morning. Are you ready? And just to remind, once you get sorted out, just to remind everybody, I can see we've got some latecomers. This session is being recorded to be uploaded onto our YouTube channel. And as I always say, please have your pens and pads ready if you want to take down any contact details, etc.
Am I allowed to share screen?
You can, my darling.
Lovely.
And to hear about future Queen walking groups, Zoom events, please follow us on Eventbrite. Just look for the Queen's Walking Group. And I'm not sure if my other queens are on the platform. Big up Kaz, our East London Walking Queen. Big up Leslie, our Croydon Walking Queen. Big up Jenny, our Birmingham, and Queen Doretta, who's leading our Manchester group. So the Queen Walking Group is spreading. You just need to make your presentation a little bit bigger, my darling.
Okay, let me see if I can do that. I think because everything else is up. Hold on, I may have to stop share and go into it manually.
No,
oh, okay.
Do that.
Okay.
Colette, you didn't need to do that. I can direct you where. What
Oh,
you
sorry.
yeah, go
Okay.
back into sharing.
Yeah. Could you guide me?
Yeah, so go back into sharing. Bring it up
Okay.
again.
All right. Okay. All right. I'm back into sharing.
Okay, so on the screen, you've got at the bottom, there's some menus. And what you've got is, it says notes. So where notes are, you want to go along to the end one where it's looking, yeah, the very next one, the next one. That's the one. Press on that.
Yeah.
We'll open it up. Okay.
Okay. There we go.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to look at the definition of domestic abuse, but I just wanted to give some more meat to the matter. So as I said in my intro, I'm now an integrative counsellor. And how did I get into domestic abuse? Well, I fell into it, to be honest with you. I was working in social care, and they needed a team leader to work with a couple of my colleagues who was doing domestic abuse, working with women and their families in the community. So I decided to manage them, and sort of gleaned an interest, and obviously it really sort of triggered home to me in my own personal journey and what I had endured with a former partner. So that transpired that I went on to work for Solace Women's Aid, which is one of the big domestic violence, domestic abuse, sexual abuse charitable organisations, as well as the Naya Project, Hestia, Refuge, Advance. So I've worked as a qualified independent domestic violence advisor, which is a person who will deal with the very high risk cases of domestic abuse within their local authorities, local boroughs. So it's very much about crisis intervention. You're seeing it at its very rawest, where a woman may have been beaten or psychologically abused, financially abused, into forced marriage, coercive control, that sort of thing, and liaising a lot with the police, with statutory agencies, etc. So I've seen it at its very raw. I've seen incidences where the police have gone in with their body cams and a woman has been beaten. I've seen the footage of that, and then working with that client to get them into either a safe house or to be able to make them live in more of a safe way by consistently risk assessing, etc., etc. So that's me from a domestic abuse. I'll talk about the therapeutic side in a bit. So Women's Aid's definition of domestic abuse is, as Joan has already elaborated, but we'll look at it again. We define domestic abuse as an incident or pattern of incidents of controlling, coercive, threatening, degrading, and violent behavior. That includes sexual violence. In the majority of cases, it's by a partner or an ex-partner, but also by family members or a carer. So that is very common. And the vast majority of cases in experience are women being violated or perpetrated by men. I will also talk about men being abused, looking at gender as well, and some of the statistics that I've found. So again, it talks about domestic abuse can include, but it's not limited to the following: coercive control, which is a new element to domestic abuse. It's when I was working as a domestic abuse advisor, about 2016, 17, that sort of came in, and it was so difficult to get convictions under that element. But we're finding more and more of this type of behavior coming through. And I believe that the legal CPS and the legal representation is taking this on board even more. And I noticed recently in the papers that strangulation is also now a bill, an offence, more so, to convict a perpetrator against abuse. Someone in the group was talking about, funnily enough, it's not about only the physical, it is about the psychological, the mind games, the emotional abuse, the financial and economic abuse, not giving money for shopping, leaving them without any money, selling houses underneath them, that sort of thing. Harassment and stalking. Now, again, this is a relatively new element with regards to domestic abuse. We do have organisations that work specifically on harassment and stalking. That's Paladin and also the Susie Lamplugh Trust. They work with people who maybe ex-partners, what have you, will stalk them, literally following them about on the street, stalking them on their social media platforms, trying to find out where they're working, even sort of trying to tag them on their phones via their location to find out where they're going, that sort of thing. And online and digital abuse. That is very much like for young people whereby it's like porn revenge, bullying, cyberbullying, sometimes sexual exploitation may come under that, where a young person is gang raped and they're being videoed. So those are the sort of things that it covers. Right, I wanted to give some statistics to sort of really give it a more fuller picture for you. And the charity Refuge, which again is a domestic abuse organisation, has said that it's 1 in 3 women between the age of 16 to 59 that would experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. 2 women a week are killed by a current or former partner. And in the year ending March 2019, 1.6 million women experienced domestic abuse. It'd be interesting to see when we come out, when they do their new figures, sort of like 2020, 2021, during this lockdown, I'm sure the figures are going to rise even more, where everything's been concentrated in the home, no way or women feel or men feel that there's no way of getting out, but we'll explain that more in a bit. Yeah, same-sex relationships, as Joan did say in her intro, you know, they are men get abused. The same-sex relationships, again, it's the same thing. And according to an organisation called End the Fear, they said about 25% of the LGBTQ community suffer violent or threatening relationships with partners or ex-partners. And it's the same ratio against a heterosexual woman. And then, you know, if we look at that, the reason being that they may not, it's underrepresented or underreported to the police for fear of being judged. Sometimes in the same-sex relationships where someone hasn't come out about their sexuality, that could be a way of, a threatening way of outing them and causing them to feel a way about their sexual orientation. So that happens within same-sex relationships. Now we talk about male victims of abuse. Mankind Initiative, which is specifically works with men, they reported the following statistics: 2.5 men, which is 576,000 men, and 1.2 million women. That's 4.8% were victims of partner abuse during 2018-2019, again equating to a ratio of 2 female victims to every 1 male victim. In 2017-18, 11% of male victims have considered taking their life due to partner abuse. And in 2017-18, nearly half of the victims failed to tell anyone they were a victim of domestic abuse. Again, it's they may feel that they'd be laughed at. It's not a male thing for, to happen to a man. Lack of understanding, about what goes on with male victims of abuse. In my career, I've worked with, I think it's about 2 males who were victims of abuse and harrowing. I don't know if anyone's seen, there was a program about male domestic abuse on BBC 2 or BBC 1 a few years ago, where a man was in such a horrific abuse that he was eventually killed by the woman. So again, it's quite stark. It does happen. So I wanted to talk about useful contact numbers for anyone who wants more further advice about domestic abuse, who themselves are in an abusive relationship and wants to talk about things and wanting to make possible plans of escape. First one I would recommend is the National Domestic Helpline, which is a 24-hour helpline service. They have links to every domestic abuse and advocacy service in England, Scotland, and Wales. They will give you the details of gender-specific, culturally specific, as well as some women who may have been in substance misuse, mental health, learning disabilities. So again, this would be the first port of call I would recommend if anyone wanted to get some immediate advice and guidance. I've also sort of done some specifics in terms of other useful contact information. And this is sort of London-based. So again, this is Southall Black Sisters. They are great advocates of domestic abuse and helping women of colour in order to find refuge, give advice, legal advice, etc. There's the London Women's Project. They're based in East London. The Latin American Women's Aid. I've also put something up for men, the Men Advice Line for male survivors of domestic violence, and also the LGBTQ community, again, for them to find guidance and advice in seeking help with domestic abuse. So we're talking about therapy now. And as I said, myself and my 2 colleagues, Emma and Leela, it has formed a consortium to provide therapeutic interventions for people who have experienced trauma, in particularly with domestic abuse, as well as other trauma. And I'm thinking of us as kings and queens. We have those who have been through domestic abuse or any form of abuse. There's layers to us. There's the transgenerational trauma, there's social trauma, as well as the home life and forming intimate relationships. So we again provide therapeutic interventions for clients who needs to talk about issues that they've gone through, grief, all of the rest of it. But in particular with domestic violence, and I will put it in the chat as we go along, there are counselling services with Solace Women's Aid, with the Naya Project. There's the London North and South Rape Crisis Intervention as well. So they will provide assessments and try and give you the sort of bespoke counselling intervention for you. So again, please don't suffer in silence. There are organisations that are out there that will help you in terms of the immediacy of domestic abuse, as well as when you come out the other side of the impact of the abuse on you, the guilt, the shame, the sexual abuse that you may have endured, looking at why you stayed and why you would be with those type of abusive partners, so we can unpick that with you, and then to be able to lead more fuller and independent lives. So this is a very quick whistle tour of what domestic violence is, and I'm sure my other colleagues will bring a more meatier and more in-depth into their experiences and what they have done. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Oh, Colette, you've been absolutely fantastic. And it was a bit of a whistle stop, like you said, but I mean, you touched on the main things. Wow. When you look at those statistics and when you think about, I think what's more striking for me, when you think about when we come out of lockdown, it feels like it's going to be something quite devastating that's going to unfold.
Yeah, correct. It's very much so. I think I just feel it's like holding back the tide at the moment.
Yes.
So yes, it's going to be full on.
Yeah.
And I think, can I also say, from a cultural point of view, we need to stop not saying, I don't want no one to know about my business. It is a lot happens within the Black and Asian community. They keep what is happening to themselves for fear of what the society may say.
Yeah.
And I feel that we need, as a community, to start opening up, start communicating. There are organisations that employ people like us, our colour, so that we understand the impact, the relationship, the cultural differences. So I would implore everyone to share the information that you have and have an open dialogue.
Thank you.
Breaking the silence. I liked what someone said, breaking the silence. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And could I just say, for those people who booked via Eventbrite, in the email that you received, there are contact details for organisations that can help. Yeah, so if anyone is affected whilst on this Zoom platform, there are contact details in the email that was sent. Yeah. So if
I
you
think someone's asked for the presentation. So yes, someone asked about the presentation. I will send that on to Joan, and if she wants to distribute that, that's fine.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you.
And could I also ask you, the therapy group that you've set up, please put the contact details into the chat. I normally say to all the presenters, if you could please put your contact details into the chat, because the whole raft of people are going to want to contact you all.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do that.
Yeah. Thank you, my darling.
Thank you.
So moving on to our next presenter, Bake. Hello, good morning, my darling.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am.
You've always got a beautiful, radiant smile.
I earned it. Okay, I worked hard for it because of life, because of the experience of life. I would like to start my speaking, first of all, to say thank you to everyone who is here, because you're meant to be here, and I'm grateful. So thank you. And another is that, you know that say of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I used to think of myself as a superwoman. And I'm not going to go back so much of my story, but I'm going to touch upon it. Now, when I was born, I didn't live with my mom and dad. I actually was taken and lived with my grandmother, my good grandmother, trust me. And so it was amazing until age of 12. And within that time, I was actually sexually abused, and I couldn't tell anyone because I was scared I'm going to be taken out and I don't know where I'm going to be living. So at the age of 12, I was shipped out. I mean, literally shipped out to Zanzibar, where I was born in Kenya. So I was shipped out to Zanzibar. And I lived with my mom and my siblings because my dad died when I was 9 and they had to go to Zanzibar because that's where my father's side, they're more wealthier. So they had to take us in. Now, I lived there for 4 years. And at the age of 15, I was told I'm going to get married. It was an arranged marriage. It wasn't my choice. I didn't fall in love with this person. He was 19 years older than me. So I thought, okay, he must have a good experience in life and he'll take care of me, you know, he'll be more patient with me. So I had all this expectation of, you know, you've seen, come on, in Africa, we used to watch a lot of Indian movies, you know, when they love each other, my God, and all this. And it's just like, oh, fairy tale, you know, it's going to be amazing. Anyway, so I had that expectations. So I got married a year later, and within 15 to 16, I used to live with my in-laws. And I didn't really live with my husband to be because he was living in England. So when we got married at the age of 16, straight away we came to England, United Kingdom. Now, straight away, I've never lived with a man. Never. I didn't even know my size of my bra. I didn't know anything about anything, but I had something different. I felt like I was grown up. I felt that I can do things differently. And I don't know what or how I got that feeling, but I had it in me. Now, in London, actually starting to know each other. He was different. He likes drinking, and I'm okay with that. I don't drink, and my religion, we're not allowed to drink, but he's an adult, so I can't tell him anything. All I asked him was that, please don't bring it at home. I don't drink when we have our children, and I would like to keep that separate. And he agreed, so that was good. And it was nice, but I got pregnant very quickly. And after that, I got pregnant again. And so my life became a housewife. I was looking after the children. And the thing about me was that I've learned so much within my experience in the past that I made a promise to God that, please, God, if this is what you want me to do, if this is the marriage you want me to go through, I will do it, and I will do it 100%. So I was there 100% with this man. And so what happened is that I will make it easy for him by ensuring everything is done. He will, if he's sleeping, I will ensure he gets his sleep. I will take the children quietly, and I will do everything the way supposed to be a wife supposed to do, and I will do it. And I never even once complain about my life or complain about my marriage to anyone. So no one, everyone thought my marriage is perfect. Okay, and I'm in love, and all this is good, and it's amazing. I was like, oh, fine, it's okay, it's all good. But the thing is, the first time it happens, I'm an ambitious person, okay? I love dreams and I love desires and I love to do things. I like goals. And he is totally different from me. He doesn't like any of that. So we are kind of like a chalk and cheese. I say yes, he says no. I say Spain, he says Africa. So it's yeah, I don't know how it worked, but hey. And so I was like, you're working in a police staff, and you will get a key worker at the time when they started. You get key worker to actually, let's go and buy our own house. And he looked at me like I was talking rubbish. And then his sergeant suggested to him, and he jumped to the to the opportunity. And I was like, as long as it's happening, I'm okay with that. And I was okay, And I was saying to him, I don't care where we live, even in Timbuktu, I don't care. Just let's go and let's make it happen. Because I'm thinking about the future of our children. I'm not thinking about me. I don't care about money, okay? I just want a family. And this is what I promised God. I will look after my family. So my goal in this marriage is keeping my family, because I didn't have that growing up. And so I will ensure I sacrifice whatever is needed in my life to ensure his life is okay. I will cook every single day. I love cooking, guys. Okay, I used to hate it when I was told, in the teenage years. But growing up, becoming an adult, I love cooking. Every day I'll cook. Every day I will ensure my children, they wake up in the morning, they go. I was like a soldier, okay? I've got clock everywhere in the house. And I will always go on time and do things. And I never asked for money, because remember, I came to this country, he had to take care of me. So when he gives me that 20 pounds, or when he gives me something, for me, I will not use it. I will use that money if I have to. And some days I lost the money. He got angry. And I was just like, I'm so sorry, But the thing is, I put him in a point of, I looked up to him. I respected him. I care about him. I wasn't in love with him, but I gave him that. And so and deep down, I said to myself, okay, it's okay. If you do this for him, he will support you when you want to do something for yourself. And I had that, belief. So I wait there, yeah. And so we actually looking for the house, and he showed me this certificate that he got for the grant. And I looked at the amount; it was like 5,000 pounds. And for me, it was like 500,000. I was just like, I've never seen that amount before. So I was just like, wow, this is amazing. I'm excited. So we were looking. It was taking longer than expected. We're not finding the house. And I said to my brother-in-law, can you please help us, give us our input? And we get on a house on fire. We always talk about dreams. He's totally different from my husband, and my husband hates it. So he will always try to separate us. And I was like, it's fine, I don't care, it's okay. And so he came. And finally, we found this beautiful home. And I was so excited. I was so happy. So we're going back home. And I said to him, can I see that piece of paper, please? And he gave it to me. And I looked at that piece of paper, and I learned a great lesson that day, okay? In this country, everything has expiry date. I didn't know that. So I learned, and I was like, oh my God. I looked at this, and I was like, did you see this? And he looked at me, and it's like, his face was so like, what you call it? There was no emotion. I was like, I couldn't even say the words. I couldn't even do anything. I was just like, did you have a look at this? And he looked at me, and he said things that I never imagined in my life. He says to me, do you think I'll buy a house with you? Who are you? What do you have that you can give me? You have no education, you have no money, you've got nothing. And then, I don't know if it's the left side brain or the right side brain, but one of the brain anyway told me that what he's saying, Barke, is true. Yes, it is true. And then the other side walks up and said, oh my goodness, I don't want to swear, sorry. And he's like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? You know what I mean? And I was just, the only thing that came to like automatic, the way I act, I just looked back on a seat, back seat of the car, and I looked at this child, and everything came to my mind. Where are we gonna go? Who is gonna take us in? What are we going to do? I've got a small child. What am I going to do? And that was the time that I surrendered. I felt
I had no means, nothing. I couldn't run away. I couldn't do anything. I'm in the mercy of this man, and he can do whatever with me. And the back of my mind is just my child needs a mother and father, and I cannot do this for them. I cannot take them away. Where and how I'm going to survive this? So that was the beginning. Every time he would look for argument, every time he would say something, and it's all to do with, oh, this marriage is a shamble. Oh, you're a horrible mother. How could you be doing this? How could you be doing that? What kind of woman are you? And I will be like, it's okay. Words don't hurt me. It's okay. You can say it. It's fine. I'll look after the children. I will do whatever I need to do. And it's okay. I can take it. I am strong and I can take it. It's all right. And every time I will ensure my children goes to their grandmother, put my smile on my face. I will ensure everyone is being looked after, and I will do whatever it takes. And it keeps happening. It keeps happening. And he will say to me, I'm not physically putting my hand on you. That means I'm not abusing you. And I said, it's true. And thank God for that. But I wanted my family together, that I was like, you can beat me with your words, but it's not hurting me. 12 years of this marriage, we didn't go on holiday until I paid to go on holiday. We didn't do a lot of things until I do those things. And it was like a struggle that I was actually like walking with this big, heavy bag, like a dead weight bag behind me, and I'm pulling it everywhere I go. One day, 12 years later, in my marriage, I was going to the toilet. And I faced myself in the mirror, and I looked at myself, and for the first time in my life, I was like, what? Who is this? Oh my God. I looked at an auntie, you know, when you're older, you're an auntie, yeah? So I looked at the auntie, I was like, oh my God, who is this person, you know? In my head, I'm still that 16-year-old. I'm still that fun looking girl, you know, want to have fun and want to enjoy tomboy, you know? I'm like looking, I was like, oh my God. It's like the veil has come off, you know, the blinders has come off. And I'm looking and it's like, you're depressed. You are sick. What's going on, Barike? For the first time. And that awakened something inside of me. And a click came and I said, I want to be happy. I just want to be happy. I didn't know how this happiness looked like. I didn't know how it tastes like. I didn't know how it's going to be, but I want to be happy. So what I did was that I said to him, I want a divorce. I can't do this anymore. My children were at the age of 12 and 13. And 12 and 11. And I didn't know what, you know, because I couldn't take it. So he called my family, and my family, they're all men, you know, my father's side, and he's on their side because they're like, what? She wants to get divorced? What happened? What did you do? And he's like, no, it's your daughter. There's something wrong with her. You need to talk to her. So I was summoned, and I was okay. I took the phone. I had to, and they said to me, Bariki, what are you doing? Why are you asking for divorce? And I said, I just want to be happy. And they say to me, what? There's no such thing as happiness in this world. Just go back to your husband and be happy. Leave us alone, man. And I would say, what? There isn't? No, there isn't. Forget it. I was like, but no, it can't be. There must be. And they were listening to me and they were like, she's not getting it. So what they said is like, Barke, if you're going to do this, we are going to disown you. You will not have a family to come back to. That shook me. It's like, you know what? I can't do this. I have to go back. I have to go back. And I went back to him. And you know what he said to me? He said to me, I have conditions for you. You are not allowed to be laughing, to be smiling, to be talking to people, to have friends, to do this and to do. I was like, okay, fine, I'll do that. I felt like I was Walking Dead. Like actual, like that film Walking Dead with all the zombies. I've never watched it and I hate it. And I felt like that. And I was just like, oh my God, is this my life? Is this who I am now? 2 years later, you know what he did? He actually, it was a Christmas time. Oh my God, I love Christmas. I love Christmas. And so, you know, and I was working in catering at this time. And I was like, you know what, let's go to the, you know, to work because we're doing Christmas lunches, and I love doing these things, you know. And so my children, I was like, let's go together. He drops us there, okay? He loves dropping us because he knows where I'm actually going. Yeah, he has control issues, and it's fine. I was like, I don't care, it's okay. I get to be, you know, to be driven, so it's okay, it's all good. And so we were so happy. Everything went well. We took nice photos, and everything is done. I called him and I was like, oh, are you in a rugby? Because every Sunday is his day for rugby. And are you there? No, I'm at home. But the way he was answering, you know, that doesn't sound good. There's something. And I was just like, I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, something is up today. So I was just like, okay, is there food? Did you leave any food here? I was like, oh, Barike, what are you asking? I was like, okay, don't worry. I'll come back home and I'll cook. It's okay. Thank you very much. I put the phone down. I came back home. I looked at this man. He was sitting down on the corner in the living room. And I was like, oh my God. I took my children, go to your room. And I'm going to make food very quickly. Okay, so go. I went to the toilet and I was peeing. Next thing I hear the door being slammed. And he was like, I need to talk to you. I was like, okay, that's fine. Go in the bedroom, I'll come. I went to the bed because I'm trying not to make, if I see him like that, not to make noise for the children. I didn't want my children to hear or to know what's going on. So always I will try my hardest to keep it quiet or to keep it low. Anyway, I went to the bedroom and he sat down and he said to me, hey, who did you bring in the house? Who did you have sex with in the house? I was like, what? What do you mean have sex with in the house? And I was just like, oh my goodness, what? I've got this evidence. There was a sandwich bag and inside there was a condom that has been stretched out, it's pink. And I was like, looked at this. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of him. And I looked at it and I started laughing. And I said, is this a joke? And he looked at me and he's like, did you see me laughing? This is reality. What did you do? And I was like, where did you find that? Oh, in a living room. In a living room? We don't have a carpet, guys. Okay, where would that be? And I was like, it was under the rug. Really? Yes. And can I have a look? I looked at it and this thing, it was just open. There was nothing. I was like, if I had sex in that condom, there will be some kind of something like residue left, isn't it? And I was kind of like going with him, like, let's look at the facts here. And he looked at me and is like, I'm telling you, you've done something, confess to me and I will forgive you. I was like, what? Confess to you? Then you'll forgive me? Yes, just confess. Just say you did it. And I was like, I'm not going to confess on something I never do. I didn't do anything. You know what he did? When he didn't get that? And for that first time, I could not believe my eyes. He went and grabbed my daughter. She's 12 years old. He went and grabbed her and started shouting at her and say, what did you bring? Did you bring any man here? I was like, what? I looked at this man and I was like, is this real? This is not real. And I stopped him. I was like, stop right there. Stop it. And he was like, no. And from that day, 2 weeks, he used to ask me for sex every night. And that sex, I would tell you, if it was amazing sex, I would say yes, but it wasn't. It was just 2 minutes that was doing nothing. And for me, it was like, what's the point? And when I say no, really, he will go and start shouting and screaming while the children are asleep. And I felt being abused inside out. And I couldn't tell anyone about this because he would say to me, this is marriage. You married to me. You have to give me sex. This is what is supposed to be. 2 weeks. I looked at him And I sat him down because he used to scare me and say to me, "See my briefcase? It's full of evidence. If you walk out or if you go and ask for divorce, I've got evidence. People will see what you've done." I used to be scared of that because I didn't know what he has. But then that day, I sat him down in the living room and I said to him, "We are done. Enough. And this time you can go and call the queen if you have to, because I am done." And I got up and I went, and I'm so sorry, I know my time is over. So please, if just put your thumbs up, I'll be finished. But I got up and I went to People Advice Bureau. You want me to stop? I can stop.
No, it's okay. You've got a few
Okay.
more minutes. That's okay.
Okay, thank you. I went to Citizen Advice Bureau and I asked for someone to help me with my divorce paper. The lady was amazing. She was a beautiful queen. I wish I took her details. I didn't. It was my first time. I was so scared. And she wrote for me everything. And I took that piece of paper, like, you know, the movie, what you call it, Chocolate Factory, the golden ticket. That was my golden ticket. And I hold that golden ticket, and I didn't trust my post office. I had to go to every, from Bow, I'm in East London. So from Bow, there was a court, and they told me, no, it's not this one. You have to go to the next one. I walked until Stratford to the family court that I didn't know anything about. And I actually gone in and I wanted to hand in my divorce paper. And they told me, yeah, just put it in a box. And I was like, sure, they're going to call me because that box looks so old, you know? And they said, no, it's fine. They will call you. And I was like, okay, fine. So they did call me. It took a year for me to know that I was divorced. It wasn't easy. I had to keep going back and forward because of the paper. I was doing everything by myself. But the thing is, it took another 2 years. This man, I was sleeping on the children's floor, and he used to come every night drunk and used to be shouting and screaming and talking. And my fear was that he will fall down on my children's bed and kill them or hurt them or whatever is going to happen. And one day I said, no, I'm going to go on my bed. You need to come out of the room because you don't deserve it. And I went into my room because you know why I stayed for two more years after the divorce? Because I didn't know about any other way to go about it, or like what Colette was saying about the abused women where they need to. I called and I asked, and they said to me, there is women refuge. But when I asked to go for women refuge, they said to me, you can't because of your son. He's 14 and the men are not allowed. And I got so scared that I couldn't leave my son with this man. I could not do it. So what I done, I had to wait. But the thing about I had in me was not to call the police on him, even though he works in the police. And I did report it to say, if anything happens to me, if I become dead, or if anything happens to me, this man you need to talk to. I didn't report him to get him in trouble. I just said, I want to say it, that this is happening in my life at the moment. And please, if anything happens to me, this man, he done it. So he knew about it because he was told, as he said, he was told by his own colleagues or whatever that I actually reported him. He went crazy. But the thing is, he was like every night, one day, my son woke me up at 6 a.m. in the morning. Mom, wake up. I think dad is dead. I was like, what? I got up, I ran to their room. You know what he done? He came back home drunk and he passed out and he vomited all over his chest. And the child woke up in the morning and the first thing he sees is your dad there, like he's dead. He can't even get up. He's unconscious. I was trying to hold him up. I couldn't. And I looked at this man and I said, how can you do this? Your own children, how? Thank God. The only thing, he walked away because I had to quit my job. I was studying. There was no money coming in that I can give him. And so he left finally. But he didn't just leave. He left me a great present of financial debts. And I was like, wow. And you know what he said to me? You'll come back to me. You know what I said to myself? Don't dare me. I'm not coming back. And I never coming back. I never looked back. I actually went and put myself into a group sessions of therapy. I actually went and started looking for ways that I can help myself. And I started self-development, and I started actually helping I wanting to know who I am. And that's why I wrote my book, What is Your Name? Because I forgot who I was. And what is my name? My name is Barke Faraj Kamus. My name means blessing. I've got so much blessing inside of me that I wanted to share with everyone in the world. And I am here because I am ready. And I'm here because I am here to share with women out there. You can do it too. Enough is enough. Let's make a difference in this world. Let's be our own hero. Let's be and live the life we deserve. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, Barke. I'm here, I'm telling you. You have to be a strong, powerful, oh, I don't know, I can't even find the words. And you're still smiling.
I earned it. I earned it. I never used to smile like this. Guys, this smile is the blessings. I deserve this smile. So I'm sharing it to all of you. Thank you, really. Thank you. And I also, I thank him. I thank him. And I appreciate him. And I appreciate my grandmothers who teach me so much lessons today, because I am here because I'm a better person. So thank you for all the hardship. Thank you for all the experience. I am strong and I can do it. So thank you.
Well, you know, as I said before, if there's anybody on the platform, you know, who is going through anything like this whatsoever, you know, please, everybody, please put your contact details into the chat. And like I said previously, you know, the email that you received to come onto the Zoom has contact information for organizations you can get in touch with. You know, if you can just be brave, set yourself free. You know, nobody should live in terror, live in fear. It's just completely unacceptable. And what age were you when you had to get married? Did you say you were 15, 14?
I was 15 when I got engaged. So the whole year of 15, and then 16, I got married.
Okay, okay. Well, you've come full circle and you've come out of this, what was a really horrible situation, a stronger, powerful woman. And I mean, I heard you talk on a friend's platform, 360 Degrees, Francine runs that. And every time I hear your story, it touches me. It really
Thank you.
does. So, you know, please, you know, keep smiling, keep spreading your message, you know, and because there are so many women going through this through these difficulties. And like I said before, especially in lockdown now, you know, when you saw, like, when the floodgates open, the trauma that's going to be unleashed on society, it's going to be devastating. So thank you so much for your presentation. You're going to hang around for the Q&A.
Yes.
At the end. God bless you. Thank you, my darling.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Michael Watson, we've got Michael Watson, a qualified and highly experienced independent social worker, who's going to be presenting, because he does a lot of work with the repercussions, especially with children. So Michael, are you ready, my dear? I know we're running a little bit behind time. Unmute yourself. That's it. I can see you now, Michael.
Right. I need to go to share, did I?
Yes. Can you see? Can you bring your presentation up and then you click on share? Yeah.
I brought it up, but
Is it up?
it's, hang on, I've got it.
It's there. I know it's there.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get it on. I've got it up, but you can't see it, huh?
No, we can't see it yet. You click share.
Hang on. Share screen. I've clicked share. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not.
Right, come out of it and then go back in again. You said you've got it up, yeah?
It's already up on. Well, okay. Come out of it.
You've got it on the screen. So if you clicked share, can you see the thing at the bottom of your screen? It says share.
I see this thing. Right. No, it's not. Sorry, hang on. Let me just get out of something. I've got share. Let's click share. That
Share
comes up.
screen. So select share
Share.
screen.
I've got share screen. I've clicked it,
Yes,
but
so
it's
click
not.
on that, and then you've got to find your presentation, one that should have been opened. So you should have opened that in advance.
Yeah, it's open in advance.
Okay,
It's
now
already
double
open.
click on it.
Okay.
That's it.
Is that it? Good.
Yeah.
Right, okay, good. Sorry about this.
No, don't worry. Let's a little bit about yourself, Michael, whilst you thought yourself.
Right, I've got it up now. Yes, as I said, I'm a qualified social worker. I've been a social worker for, well over 30 years. And I suppose when I started, I was what was called it was kind of like a neighbourhood or patch social worker. Then I went into doing. I sort of specialised in children and families and doing child protection, and then I became a children's guardian, and I loved that job for years because I was actually able just to work with children. I was representing children.
You're screen sharing, but we can't see the presentation.
You can't see the presentation.
Yeah, but you have started to screen share.
You should be able to see. Can you see the domestic abuse, the impact on children?
No. So just press on the page that you're on.
Just click on it.
Click on it.
Yeah.
I've clicked on it. Nothing.
Hasn't come through yet.
No, not yet.
So what can you actually see?
It just says Michael Watson has started screen sharing. So if you actually to click on the actual presentation. I wonder if it's the Wi-Fi which is slowing things down. So you clicked on it?
Yeah, I've clicked on it, but there's no difference.
So you can see it, can't you?
I can see it, but obviously no one else seems to have
so
seen
Nadia,
it.
what do you think? If it comes back out of it and then goes back in?
Yeah, that's right. So good. So you've definitely got your presentation up on the screen prior to going into share. So when you go into share, then you should double click on it and it should then come up. So come out of share and go back in.
Go back in, yeah.
So exit sharing. At the top it should say end share or something like that.
It's got new share, so I click on that, yeah? Yeah. So you want me to say, then what do you say? I should resume share or double click on
resume share.
Yeah.
And double click on it.
Resume share and double click on
your presentation. Yeah.
Okay.
So the page you want to start with, click on it.
Do that again because it's. So going to I've done new share. Do I double click on my presentation first and then resume share? Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, if you're going into resume share, it means you're not properly in share. So, so the best thing is to
Come right out.
Yeah, come right out altogether.
Right out of it and then go back in.
Yeah, because I think that's where the problem is that you're not totally in sharing yet.
Right, I'm gonna close down this.
So yeah, exit sharing. That's what you want to do.
Now I'm gonna go back into you share.
Wow. Okay, great. You've come out now. So you're out of sharing. Now you want to go back and press on share screen now.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then double click on.
And then select the presentation that you want to use. So double click on that.
Yeah. I've done that.
Okay.
You still can't see it.
No, we can't. Then select the first page. So wherever select the slide.
Yeah, it is. It's on the first.
So you're on the first slide.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the bottom there's a menu bit. So you've got notes. You want the last one where it looks like a little square standing on a stick. Press that and see what happens there. At the bottom of your presentation within PowerPoint, you've got different indicators, and you want the last indicator where it looks like a screen standing on a stick. Very small, just a small indicator at the bottom. You need to press on that. Let's see if that will open it up. Are you seeing that at the bottom where it says notes?
Yeah, I've got click add notes, and I've just let me see if there's anything else.
It looks like a little monitor, like a little square.
Yeah, monitor sitting on
a stick.
Yeah.
If you can't share it, don't worry. Just talk us through your presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
You're still screen sharing, so there's something to do with I think at one point when you opened the presentation, because you've come out, so you might as well stop screen sharing because it's not going to work.
Okay, so I'll just talk through my presentation.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I know you put a lot of work into it. It's just a bit
That's okay. Yeah. Right. So yes, I was saying I then became a children's guardian. Yeah, and so I love that job.
Sharing, then we can see you properly in the screen.
Sorry?
If you stop screen sharing.
All right.
Yeah.
Michael, you could email me your presentation, and then I could share it.
Right. Okay. What's the email address?
I'll just.
What we'll do. Let me move on to the next presentation then. So we've got Ursula. Then whilst you sort that bit out, if you do
that would.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna email you.
Screen sharing. You sort that bit out, and then I will come back to you.
Yeah.
All right. So Ursula, my darling, Ursula Myrie, founder and CEO of Adira, kind of like jump-started you a bit. But if you could stop screen sharing, Michael.
All right.
Then we can bring Ursula in. We're all still grappling with technicalities of Zoom and screen sharing and all sorts.
Right.
Wonderful. So let's move over to Ursula. Hi, Queen.
Hey, hi. I swear, the technology today. I was going to take a hammer to this laptop this morning. I'm telling you.
I've been there. I feel your pain. Just watch my first Zoom.
Right, let me get started. I am timing myself because I realize we're way over.
Don't worry, you've got time. Don't worry. When it comes to this kind of topic, you've got So just relax, breathe, and share your story.
Let me say something. Just technology.
But you're here now, Queen.
Here now, thank God.
Welcome to the platform. Welcome.
Thank you. So let me just say, trigger warning, massive trigger warning before I start. So as I said, I'm the founder of Adira, but my story starts at 2 when I was, because I was born here in England and sent to Jamaica to live with my sister's grandparents. When I was 2, we have different fathers, so they were her biological grandparents. And from the age of 2 to 7, I lived in Jamaica, and then I was brought back to England when I was 7. And at 2 was where my rape and sexual abuse and physical abuse began. That was where my domestic violence began, because whenever you hear the word domestic violence, people automatically go to an adult. You think of an adult experiencing violence, but my domestic violence began at the age of 2 in the home in Jamaica. My sister's grandmother would beat the hell out of me. And my sister's grandfather started raping me at the age of 2. It was when my mother came to Jamaica to check up on us that she realized that somebody was raping me and decided to bring me home. So she went back to England when I was 6. She saved for a year and she brought me back to England when I was 7. And automatically you think, as a 7-year-old, this is it, you know, I'm leaving that place of trauma and that place of pain. And it was a case of out of the frying pan into the fire because my mother is a religious nut. She's Pentecostal. She took us to church 7 days a week. And what she would do is to actively schedule, and I mean schedule, keep dates, names, times of which church leaders were coming to rape me on a particular day. And it was a weekly thing under the guise of they were raping the demons out of me because I was a particularly bad child. I was bad to the bone. I was that child that was always fighting in school, always getting in trouble in terms of my friends, my teachers. So she would bring these men into the house knowing that they would come in to rape me. They would bring the praying oil. It would be almost like an exorcism. Where they would be raping these demons out of me while dousing me in this praying oil. And in between the sexual abuse and the rape, there was the physical violence at the hands of my mother. And my mother was I don't want to say typical as if it's a blanket statement, but it happens very commonly in the Jamaican community where you beat your child. You don't smack your child, you beat. And my mother used to beat me till my bones broke. I used to get finger broken for not getting homework right. I grew up in and out of hospital as a child with a lot of broken bones, broken arm, broken leg, to the point where now right throughout my childhood, I've had an unusually high pain threshold because I am so used to having my bones broken in my childhood. And in between the physical violence and the rape, there was what I call verbal violence. Yeah, because words are so cutting to a child, and to be telling your child every day that you're stupid and thick. You know, in Jamaica, we say you're dirty and you're useless and you're worthless and you're nasty. And you're telling the child this every single day. She approved of the rape that was going on. She approved of the abuse that was going on. I was in and out of hospital, not just with broken bones, but also with sexually transmitted diseases that I shouldn't have been having as a child. I saw my first psychiatrist when I was 7 years old. I saw a psychiatrist at 7 because I began cutting at 7, and I was cutting because of what was happening at home. But as we're aware in the Jamaican community, for those who do abuse their children, we teach our children from the womb, hush, don't talk. So as much as I wanted to talk to these therapists and these doctors and these teachers, I couldn't, because I knew that there were consequences to me talking. And I also knew that what I call the triangle exists in the Black community, which is family, church, community. And as long as you stay within the triangle, you're good. Try and go outside of that triangle. Try and speak about what's happening outside of that triangle. That's when the problems come in. So I had to stay within the triangle. And I don't know how many of you have heard of the Shirley Oaks abuse scandal, which is the biggest sexual abuse scandal in the history of this country, bigger than the Jimmy Savile and the Rochdale. It broke about 4 years ago in London, the story of the Shirley Oaks abuse scandal, which was a conglomerate of care homes under the care of Lambeth Council. The homes were opened in the 30s and closed in the 80s. And the care home was basically run by a paedophile ring that would rotate the children based on preference. So if you like children under a certain age too, okay, you go to this home. If you like boys, you went to that home and raped them. And in the care homes, they would rape and drug and beat you. And unfortunately for me, even though I wouldn't talk about what was happening to me, it was very obvious. So I would be put into care. So I was in care for over 2.5 years. And unbeknownst to me at the time, the care home was run by the paedophile ring. So unfortunately for me, Monday to Friday, I would be in the care home where I'd be raped, beaten and drugged by staff. And then Friday to Sunday, they would send me home to my mother, knowing that she was scheduling the leaders of the church to come in and rape me on the weekend, just for me to come back to the care home on Monday for it to begin again. That was a 2-year overlap in my life where I was being raped Monday to Friday at home and while I was in care. Those of you who know the Shirley Oak story know that when the story broke for 3 years, Lambeth denied it, said it didn't happen until Theresa May went into the House of Commons when she was in power one day and just said, look, this happened, you know it happened, own it. And the next morning, Lambeth Council released a statement that went global that said, you know, yes, we did know the care home was run by a paedophile ring. We did know they were drugging and raping the children, and we did cover it up, and we're very sorry. To date, 13 people have gone to prison for that. Some have died because they're very old. Some fled the country when the story broke. I'm talking about the perpetrators here. So for me, that's the only justice I've ever had in terms of the rape and abuse in my childhood. I started drinking when I was 9. I stopped when I was 22 because I nearly died. And the doctor basically said, look, it's either you stop drinking or you'll be dead within a year. It took me 2 years to stop drinking, but if you remove a crutch, I will fall. And that was my crutch. So what I did was when I had to stop drinking, I increased the self-harming. And because of somebody like me with such a high pain threshold, when I cut, what would be to normal people pain, to me is like a sting. So when I cut to bone, because that's the only way I can actually feel something, because my pain threshold is so high. I left home when I was 20, got married when I was 25. To a man who beat me for 6 years through 2 pregnancies. And when I wanted a divorce, he said he was going to kill me, and he actively tried to kill me 3 times. I then was moved by police and social services out of London to Sheffield because he wasn't going to stop trying. This was over 20 years ago, where domestic violence wasn't taken as seriously as it is now. So, you know, it was a tap on the wrist every time. He would break the restraining orders, and him trying to kill me 3 times didn't really seem to make a difference to the police. And they said, okay, you move out of London. But when I was pregnant with my first daughter, that was the first time the Pandora's box of pain and trauma that I'd locked in my head opened. And I remember going to every doctor, every therapist, every psychotherapist, everybody I could find who was a professional who could answer my one question. Now that I'm pregnant, when I have this child, will I abuse her when she's born the way I was abused? Will I break her bones? Will I verbally abuse her every day? And every single one of them said the same thing over and over. Miss Myrie, until that child is born, we won't know. We don't know what you're going to feel for her when she is born. So you have to wait until she's born. When I was 7 months pregnant in full mental health mode, and I spoke to my doctor and said, you know, look, am I going to abuse my child? And he said the same thing. So I said, okay, I want a termination. I want you to terminate the pregnancy. I was 7 months, mental health mode. Didn't even occur to me that, you know, 7 months, it's too late. So he said, look, Miss Myrie, we can't terminate this pregnancy. It's, you know, and I said, so you're not going to terminate it? Mm-hmm. So I walked out of his office, found the first flight of stairs I could, and threw myself head first down the stairs, because I said to myself, my fear of me harming my child was so great that I would rather kill her in the womb than to bring her into this world and harm her. I went straight from there to the hospital. I spent 2 months in the hospital sleeping on a spine board because I nearly broke my spine. When I don't know if you know how London is set up, but you have the King's College Hospital here, and then you have the Maudsley Hospital across the road, which is the psychiatric hospital. As soon as I was ready to be released from the hospital, they wheeled me straight across to the psychiatric ward across the road. And I was in there for the last 2 months of my pregnancy because they knew I was not going to stop trying until I killed that child. And then when she was born, bush, out of nowhere, emotions that I didn't think I was capable of feeling because I thought they were kicked out of me as a child. I just grew this love. As soon as she was born, I would not, you know, when they're born and they're covered in blood and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't let the doctors take her to clean her up because I just thought they're going to hurt her, they're going to harm her, they're going to do something to her. And that was where my connection with my daughter began. And when I brought her home for the first 3 weeks, I wouldn't sleep because I convinced myself that my husband was going to rape her while I was sleeping. He was going to do something to her while I was sleeping. And it was when she was 3 weeks old, I was having her on my lap in the rocking chair. I hadn't slept for 3 weeks and I fell asleep with her in my arms and she fell to the floor and rushed her to hospital. She was fine because it was very thick carpet. She was only 3 weeks old. And that was the first time. The second time I was sectioned again because they said to me, look, you're not a danger to your child in the sense that you're going to harm her, but your overprotectiveness of your child is not healthy. So you either go into a mother and baby unit or we remove the child from you. So over the years, I was sectioned on and off, in and out of mental institutions, on and off. I've been over 20 years now since I've been in institutionalized. And then when we moved to Sheffield, we moved into a women's refuge for the first 7 months. We lived in a women's refuge. And for somebody who doesn't do change because of my mental health issues, I don't do change well. So it was really difficult to such a massive change to move to a big city where I had no friends, no family. I'd lost everything, my house, my car, everything. And we moved here, and within 2 weeks of us moving here, my youngest was 4, my eldest was 5 when we moved here, or 6. And she woke up in the middle of the night coughing. She's an asthmatic, chronic asthmatic. I knew something was wrong, took her to the doctor in the morning. And while I was in the doctor's surgery with her in my arms and my 6-year-old at my side, I just felt my daughter go like this on my chest. And I looked at her and she'd stopped breathing right there in the doctor's surgery, rushed her to the hospital. And I remember the doctor coming out and saying, Miss Myrie, I think you need to sit down. And I said, no, just what? Just tell me. And he said, look, your daughter has asthma, but she's developed pneumonia. And the medication we're giving her for the pneumonia is not working because of her underlying issue, which is the asthma. So what's happened is the fluid and liquid and mucus and everything has built up on her chest and gone into her lungs. The lungs have collapsed. That's putting pressure on the rest of the organs. So the liver is failing, the kidney is failing, the heart is failing. We have her on life support. She has 24 hours to live. If you have any friends or family, call them and tell them to come. Now she will be dead within the next 24 hours. And I remember thinking, is this man mad? That was my thought. Are you mad? I've lost everything. I've got nothing. I'm in a strange city living with people I don't know. The only thing I have is the clothes I'm standing in and my 2 children. And now you're telling me that one of them is dead. And you want me to call the triangle, who will tell my husband where I am and send him to come and finish the job he tried to start, to come and kill me. So I remember saying to him, because I'm somebody, I don't react to things, I respond because I have to compartmentalize before I talk to people. So I just remember putting things in my head in place and just saying to him, right, when it's time, remove the tubes from her because her body was just covered in tubes and she was on the life support. And I said, take all those tubes out of my daughter, put her in my arms, let her die in my arms with her sister by her side. We can't call anybody. We can't tell anybody where we are. Just because I knew I couldn't melt down because I had a 6-year-old. So me melting down wasn't going to help me or my child. I had to compartmentalize my trauma, my thought process, my pain, thought of losing my child, and deal with it the best I could. If you ask my children's hospital how she got better, they don't know. I'm sure if you look at her medical records, it says miracle, because she was in the hospital a few months every day. Today's the day she's going to die. And then she got better. 7 months later, we moved out of the refuge. We moved into a house where we had nothing. There was no flooring. There was just concrete. There was no curtains. We had a bed, a cooker, a washing machine, and a fridge freezer. And that was all we had in this house. The day we moved in the middle of the night, my daughter woke up coughing. In the middle of the night, I recognized the signs from 7 months earlier. I knew it was pneumonia, rushed her to hospital. Word for word, Miss Myrie, sit down. Miss Myrie, Tyra has pneumonia, asthma, medication not working because of the underlying issues, kidney failing, liver failing, heart failing, life support. Call friends and family, 24 hours to live. I remember thinking, oh God, how? At that point in the children's hospital here in Sheffield, they have a chapel of rest, a chapel where you can go and pray in the basement. And I remember going down to the basement because I'm a Christian, diehard Christian. I remember getting on my face to God and saying, God, please, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. I can't do this. And I said, look, just take me. Leave the kids and take me, because I've got nothing left to fight with. I am finished. I am done. She got better. After a few months, she was out of the hospital. And then the first 6 years here in Sheffield, we lived in that hospital. The doctors used to tease us that they were going to name a ward after Tyra, because she spent so much time in that hospital, because they couldn't find a medication that worked for her asthma. So for 6 years, they kept trying. And in that time, her asthma was getting worse. When they did find a medication, it was a case of, well, Miss Myrie, it works, but it's too expensive to give to your daughter. So I told them my favorite sentence, see you in court. We went to court. I won. She's now a healthy 21-year-old. I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder when I was 33. And before 33, hear me well, the triangle convinced me, so my family, the church, and my community convinced me that I didn't have mental health issues, that it was voodoo, witchcraft, juju, black magic, evil eye, somebody's obied me, I'm just wicked, I'm just evil, I'm just bad, I'm just weak. So to be diagnosed at 33 with borderline personality disorder, that was my turning point, because I'd never heard of it. I went home, Googled it, and it was tick, tick, tick. That's me, that's me, that's me. That's why I behave this way. That's why I behave that way. That's why I don't see gray areas. Something is either black or white. That's why I don't understand social cues. I'm not very good with social cues. I don't get humor. I tend to not have a filter. So I have to think before I speak to people. It enabled me to say, okay, so now I know what's wrong with me. And when I looked at the causes, it was trauma of sexual abuse in childhood. I was like, okay, so I'm not mad, and it's not voodoo, and it's not witchcraft. So I have mental health issues because you were raping me and breaking my bones and verbally abusing me with your verbal violence on a day-to-day basis. And because of the abuse I suffered in the care home. Okay, so if that's the case, 100% of my family have mental health issues because of abuse in childhood. And that was when I decided, okay, now I know what's wrong with me. Now I know what I need to do to make this right. I'm going to begin to change. And that's when I started to fix my behavior. I started to watch how I deal with things. I became, and I still, people describe me as a social chameleon, because I don't understand social cues. So I go into situations and I observe what's happening and I just blend in with the room. So if people laugh, I laugh. Sometimes my kids will be with me, and if somebody says something, they'll be like, Mommy, don't answer, Mommy, because they know I will just speak. I don't understand why I can't. If you ask me, do I look fat in this dress? I don't understand why I can't say, yes, you do, because you asked me that. So my mind doesn't comprehend that socially that's not acceptable. So I spent years working on myself, and then I began to work on my trauma in terms of, okay, why do I keep having these breakdowns? Why do I keep self-harming? Am I so overprotective of my kids? Okay, what are you carrying? And I realized I was carrying a lot of hate and hurt and unforgiveness. Okay, let's start breaking that down and dealing with that. Start dealing with the hurt, start dealing with the trauma. Find a box in your head, because you're never going to be rid of it. So find a box in your head to put it in and keep it there as best you can. Then now to begin to forgive. Forgive your mother, forgive the men who raped you. Say it on a daily basis like it's a mantra. It hurt like hell. But as I began to let go of all those things, I found that my happiness increased. I wasn't eating as much because I was eating my pain. I was twice the size I am now. I found that I had a better relationship, even though my kids always say to me they've had the most amazing childhood. And I always ask them, where was I when you were having this childhood? Because as far as I'm concerned, you had the most horrific childhood, raised by a mother with serious mental health issues, constantly having these breakdowns. But they said, Mummy, you were the most present mother. You were at every sports day, every parents' evening, every school play, every birthday party, right up until we were 14, you would take us to birthday parties. You never let us do sleepovers. You were the most present mother. We've had the most amazing Christmases, even though there was only 3 of us. The way you used to cut the day in half, and half our presents we could open in the morning and the other half in the evening, so that we'd have something to look forward to, because we didn't have the big family, and the way you'd hide the presents and put clues for us to find them. We had the best childhood ever, Mommy. And I'm like, I still don't see what my children see. And now they're 21 and 23. We have the most amazing relationship. My eldest graduated in 2019 from university. She studied psychology and counseling because she wants to be a psychotherapist. My youngest is still at university. She's in her last year. She's studying psychology and criminology because she wants to be a forensic psychologist. We have the most amazing, feral, amazing, vicious relationship. We laugh a lot. We laugh a lot, me and my children. Very affectionate with them, because I don't know why or how. I'm very affectionate with them. It's important to me that they have a lot of affection, maybe because I didn't have as a child. Where am I now in terms of my life? My mental health is in the best place ever. As soon as I got to that place where I could forgive my mother and forgive the men who raped and abused me, and was in a better place, I weaned myself off antidepressants and I started Adira. And Adira is now an award-winning organization. We have multiple projects that support the Black community. We have a Black hair care project, which we launched last year, and that gives Black people with opportunities with mental health, the opportunity to get their hair done for free. Because you know how it is with our hair, and it's tied into our mental health. If the hair ain't right, nothing ain't right. Don't talk to me about my bills, fix my hair. So we launched that. We launched a food pharmacy during lockdown when everybody else was launching food banks. No self-respecting Black person is going to a food bank, child. You don't look like me, for a start. We don't eat tinned rice pudding and tinned steak. And you're not Black. So I don't reinvent the wheel. I think outside the box. So instead of calling it a food bank, I called it a food pharmacy. And I said to the Black community, guys, food is medicine. Come over here and take your medicine. And believe me, we had so many Black people come to our food bank because the cooked food, we had rice and peas, we had jerk chicken, curry mutton. And then in the food parcels, we had basmati rice, we had flour. You got to have the cooking oil in that bag. We cannot cook without the cooking oil. So we had our culturally appropriate food in there. When we launched the Black hair care project, all these statutory services came crawling out the woodwork, even though I was telling them for years, there is a link between Black mental health and Black hair. Fix the hair, and people with mental health issues will be more willing to talk to you about the rent or their husband raping them or beating them. Sheffield City Council came and said, we've got all these elderly Black people in the care home. Can you come and do their hair? The foster care team said the biggest complaint we get from white foster carers, they've got all these Black kids coming through, they don't know how to do their hair. The psychiatric wards here in Sheffield approached me, a Black consultant said, Ursula, I see so many of our Black people in the psychiatric wards walking on the ward with their head looking dry and picky. Please, can you come and do the hair? Those who aren't well enough to do day release, we will bring the hairdresser, bring the barber onto the ward to do their hair. Those who can do day release, we will bring them supervised to the hair salon. The supervisor will stay and bring them back to the ward. Somebody opened their big mouth to Rotherham, which is very close to Sheffield, and told Rotherham Health and Social Care called, we heard you're doing this in Sheffield. It's not fair. Can you come and do it in Rotherham, then London, then Birmingham, then Manchester? So we are planning to launch that in every city in England. We're also doing a hair summer school this year where we're teaching people who want to learn how to do Black hair, but also Black people, Black kids in care, how to manage their hair. Don't just put gel in it every morning, but it's also for white parents with mixed heritage children. And we're launching this year my favorite project ever. I don't know if you've seen the film Daddy Daycare with Eddie Murphy. Well, I stole that title. It's going to be Daddy Hair Care. It's a space just for men where they can come and learn how to do hair, whether it's their daughters, their son's hair, because sons will cane roll their hair, their wife as a surprise, they will come and learn how to do that. We have conferences every year, a Black mental health conference. Our first conference was Mental Health and Me, the unspoken taboo in the Black community. The second one was Mental Health and Me, breaking the cycle of abuse in the Black community. community, because I know when I was trying to leave my husband, I would drop my daughter at school in the morning. By the time I got home at 9:10, there'd be 40 people strong in my house. And that consisted of the triangle. Family, the church, and the community were in my house trying to convince me not to leave my husband. And by the time they finished, there's no problem here. I'm not leaving my husband. We don't have any problems. He never beat me last night. We're good. So where I'm at now is I'm in a good place. I have what I call an amazing life. I am really proud of my children who both started their own businesses as well while they're at university. And I just want to say to people, you can come through it. You can come through it. And that thing, oh, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I hate that saying, because there is many ways for a person to die, and it's not all physical. I died in my childhood. There were parts of me that are now untouchable, right? I'm incapable of feeling anything. So what doesn't kill you doesn't necessarily make you stronger, because in some ways it does kill you, but you can still thrive. You can still go on to have a healthy life. Your kids can still come through the other side of that abuse and be healthy mentally, emotionally, psychologically, healthy human beings. But what I've said to my children, I know you're, healthy in many ways, but I also know that there are things that you've stored in your Pandora's box in your head that won't come out until you're married, that won't present itself until you have children. So before you get married, go and have counseling. You have counseling, then your partner has counseling, and then you have counseling together before you even get married. Sorry, I've gone over my time.
That's okay, because of me, as I said before, this subject is not something that you can really rush. I mean, I wanted to quickly ask you about, like, the marriage. How long were you married for, and how did sort of like the abuse start?
I was
you're happy to share?
Yeah, happy to share. I was married for 6 years, and the abuse started because I was in such a weird place when I met my ex-husband, and I'd just come out of a relationship about 6 months earlier, and I was still so in love with that man. And you're thinking that you're young and you don't think straight, and you think, you know what, I can't get him out of my head, so let me just jump into another relationship, because that will help me move on from him. So I got into a relationship with my ex-husband. Within a few months, I found I was pregnant. So I didn't want to be a statistic. I didn't want to be a single Black parent. So I married him knowing that I didn't love the man. He knew that I didn't love him, but his love for me was obsessional, seriously obsessional. And what he realized was, over the first year, that I was never going to love him and it was never going to change. And that's when I saw his behavior change. And that's when the verbal violence and the physical violence started, because I think he felt he could force me to loving him. And let me tell you something. I would have, if it hadn't been for my children, I wouldn't have left him. I would have stayed with him. But I realized when the children were getting older, because they were 4 and 6 when we left London, that I did not want them growing up thinking this is normal, and then getting into a marriage where if the man ain't beating them, they're not happy. So I left, but I was happy to stay in that marriage, and I would have happily let him beat me to death rather than leave him, just so I wouldn't have to hear those words, which we all fear so much, regardless of color, race, or creed. I told you so. We all fear that send, I told you so. We don't want to hear our family say, I told you he was no good. I told you, because, we fight them down, and no, he loves me and I'm going to marry him. And so I didn't want to hear that. But also I didn't want to be another statistic, a divorced Black single mother with 2 kids. And then I meet another man and we might get married, and I have kids with him. Then I've got 3 kids for 4 different men. And those fears and the triangle are what kept me in that marriage.
So what's your relationship like with your family now? Did you back with your family, or?
No, I'm not. I mean, I moved to Sheffield about 15 years ago, and I didn't speak to my family for, I would say, the first 12 years, until my nephew reached out because he was having a baby, and he said, look, Auntie, I don't know what's going on with you and my mom and the family. I don't care. I just need you to come to London for my baby's christening. And that was when I said to my children, right, we're going to be going to London. I've protected you and kept you away from the family because it's so toxic and vicious and feral. And they were implicit in covering up the rape and abuse in my childhood. But my nephew wants us in London for his christening, so let me give you a heads up about the family. So what I decided to do then was to go to my mom. I left my kids here in Sheffield, went to my mom. I sat with the woman for 4 hours in a conversation. And I said to her, this is what you did to me in childhood. For 4 hours, she didn't say one word. She just let me talk. And I told her everything that I remembered. You scheduling these men to rape me, the family being complicit, the broken bones, the sexually transmitted diseases, the verbal violence. When I finished, my mother folded her arms, looked at me and said, I don't know what you're talking about. So I said to her, let me go and get my sister who lives around the corner, because she was in the abuse as well. That's when she said, oh, no. I'm not saying I didn't do anything. I'm just saying that I don't remember it being that bad, or all the things that you are saying. Till this day, I'm 48. This was about 4 years ago when I had that conversation with my mum. My mother has never apologized, never said sorry, never taken responsibility for her actions. So when we went to the christening and my kids were, let's try, mommy, to see if we can make amends with the family. And we tried for about a year. And it was after the year that my children said, mommy, we get it now. We get it. This is why, because they saw the toxicity and the rage and the violence and the hatred and the bitterness that has just permeated. Because when you meet my grandmother, my mother's mother, she's the most bitter, angry, hate-filled woman you can meet. And if you meet her mother, it's the same, but they all have the same story of being raped and abused and beaten, and it's just been passed on. So I am the only one who has broken the cycle, but it came at a cost. It's not easy to tell people, well, if you know better, do better. It's not that simple. It cost me several mental breakdowns when my daughter would spill milk as a 2-year-old, and my thought was to thump her in her head so that I could see her brains coming out. Or when my mother hit me and she busted my head open and I had 18 stitches and she sent me to the hospital on the bus. That was my thought with my children. And I would stand there and think, yeah, thump them in their face, kick them into the wall. And then something else would be like, no, don't do that, because that was done to you as a child. Yeah, but it's not fair. Why can't I thump them and bust them up? And yeah, but how did it feel? No, but snap. Yeah. Snap. Yeah, because I'm trying to protect them, but at the same time, I'm fighting that overwhelming urge to hurt them. Snap, or I would cut myself. Stop those thoughts of harm the kids, harm the kids, harm the kids. So it's not that simple to break the cycle. And I wish people would just stop telling people, well, if you know better, do better. Why would you do that to your child? It's not that simple.
Yeah, it's not that simple. It really isn't. I'm just lost. I don't even know what to say, because I mean, I've heard your story before, and every time, it's just the trauma, and you're here, and it's, in a way, you've kind of like it's made you such a resilient, strong, powerful, passionate woman, and if anything has happened this morning, other women seeing yourself and Barke, there is hope.
Yes,
there is hope, and there is help out there. So I want to ask you one more question. I know that we're running behind, but sure. I mean, your ex-husband, I mean, is he still alive? Has he remarried? Do you know what's happened to him?
Yeah, I mean, he's still alive. He's not remarried. He's got 2 children with 2 other children with someone else now. And for the first, I would say, 8 years of living in Sheffield, because we had an overly enthusiastic social worker who, when we left London, she was wanting to tell the children's father that I was leaving, because she said, he hurt you, he didn't hurt the children, so he needs to know where you're going. And I wouldn't tell him. And when we moved into the refuge, she told him where we were. So the refuge staff contacted the social services in London, and she got sacked for doing that, for telling the children's father where we were. So when he found out we were in Sheffield, he'd come to Sheffield at least once a month, and he would either go to the police station or to social services or to Howden House, which is our housing office here, and make the claim that, oh, my wife ran off with the children. She's living here in Sheffield. I don't know where she is. You have to tell me where she is. So he tried to look for us for the first 8 years. So every time he would come to Sheffield, we would get a head from the police. Who knew about the domestic violence. They would let us know that he was in Sheffield. The school would be on high alert to protect the children. I had to keep moving my children around from different school to different school, just so he wouldn't find us. But I've had 0 contact with him. And one thing I want to answer, in case I don't know, I can't read the comments because I find that so rude to read the comments when I'm trying to share. So I'm deliberately not reading them. So if you've put stuff in the comments, I won't see it. I'm sorry. But I want to say this
at the end anyway.
Yeah. People always ask me, not always ask me, always afraid to ask me this. And I say to people, I'm an open book when it comes to my life. There is no question too personal, too deep, too traumatic, too, oh my God, no, I can't ask her that. Is about the sexual side of my life, because people always think, okay, so if you've been raped and abused that badly, how is your sex life? Are you able to have sex? What is your intimacy like? And it's different for everybody. It really is. For some women, they cannot. For me, I am capable of enjoying sex only if you're doing to me what was done to me in my childhood. That's the only way I can enjoy sex. So unless the sex is violent, I can't enjoy it. Unless you're hurting me, I can't enjoy it. Unless you're trying to suffocate me or strangle me or something, I can't enjoy sex. That's just the way it works in my head. And for me, I don't have a problem. It's partners who have a problem, because while you're doing that, I will then go into that place where I am triggered, and it will become very difficult, and I'll be screaming, but I don't want you to stop, because I need you to, and I can't explain to people when people say, but how does that mean then that you enjoy being raped as a child? No, it doesn't. I can't explain it. I'm not a therapist. And I've never gone to therapy about that, but I think it is something that we need to do a topic on, or talk about sexual healing for survivors of rape and sexual abuse, because some women are described by their partners or their husbands as cold or frigid in the bedroom, or they don't like to be touched, or they don't like to be kissed, or they don't like to be cuddled. I always say intimacy is not sex. Intimacy is not penetration. Intimacy is kissing and hugging and cuddling. And those things, I absolutely love those things. I have no problem with that. It's the sex act where, unless it's violent, unless you're physically raping me in sex, I cannot enjoy the sex. And I hope that helps for those of you who wanted to know what my life is like in terms of intimacy based on my own childhood rape and abuse.
Oh, thank you so much. We're going to be taking questions at the end, and I know we're running a little bit behind time, but thank you for sharing your story. Always, I mean, as I said, every time I hear it, I tell you, it's like my heart is breaking. My heart is breaking, but looking at you, there is hope. There is hope. So please post your contact details into the chat, because I'm sure there's guests on the platform who are going to want to contact you. Yeah, fantastic. Right, we're going to go back to Michael. Michael, are you ready for us, my darling? You're the last presenter now.
I'm here. I emailed it to you, the presentation.
You emailed it to me?
Yeah, I didn't have any person to email it to.
Okay. Oh, I didn't realise you'd done that.
Okay.
Right, let me see if I can go into my email. Well, okay, if you start your presentation, because it's going to take me a bit of time to try and bring it up now. I didn't realise you'd done that, sorry.
Okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I was waiting for the email. I private messaged you my email address, so probably you didn't see it.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. If you go ahead.
Yeah. All right, okay. So I'll just go into it because there's not much time. Domestic abuse, the impact on children. So I'll just explain who I am. I'm an independent social worker and expert witness in the family court. I'm also an author. Something just rung bells with me with Ursula's, the bit that Ursula said. I mean, all of what Ursula said was mind blowing anyhow for me. But the bit where the social worker, because I'm a social worker, did what she did. Actually, if someone is, if a parent harms the other parent, it's still harming the children. I just want to say that. I just want to get that out there, because I think people don't think that way, and they need to think that way. You can't harm one parent without it affecting the children still. Anyhow, let me move on from there. So domestic abuse is very common, and the vast majority of cases involve, as you know, men perpetrating domestic abuse on women. Let me move on to the next slide. So what is domestic abuse? Domestic abuse, to me, as I understand it, does not just refer to violence between a couple who are cohabiting, or violence from one intimate partner or possible perpetrator to the other, the survivor. Domestic abuse instead incorporates many different types of conflict which may be experienced by a survivor of domestic abuse. I say this because for me, domestic violence is also about, I mean, quite a few people think that just talking, just verbal abuse isn't part of domestic violence. For me, it isn't, and there is a huge impact on children. If you've got children or young children, you know, I often ask parents who I work with when there have been arguments between the partners, whether they've ever stopped and looked at the child at the time. Because if they ever do, specifically the first time that the child sees that, they're frozen, they're very frightened. Often some parents aren't looking at that. They're not aware of how their children feel about that. I'll come on and talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So domestic abuse instead incorporates many different types of conflict which may be experienced by a survivor of domestic abuse. I think one of the other presenters also gave the definition, the same definition to me. It's a women's aid definition. They define it as domestic abuse as an instant or patterns of instance of controlling, coercive, threatening, degrading, and violent behaviour, including sexual violence. In the majority of cases by a partner or ex-partner, but also by a family member or carer, as we've heard quite a bit about from some of the other presentations. For me, it's there is this coercive part to it, and I remember when I was doing this, someone very close to me had a relationship, several years living with someone who was extremely abusive. And took her through court. They had a child and dragged her through court for many years. And I couldn't believe that the level of abuse that actually went on. It was very hard for me to actually believe that there was that level of abuse. And it was simply an eye opener for what can go on. And the abuse wasn't physical. Very rarely was physical. It was mostly psychological and emotional, but it was just as much as devastating. In fact, probably more so. Move on. So what are the types of domestic abuse? And this I've taken mostly from the NSPCC, but I've also added bits from my own experience as well. So domestic abuse can be hitting, kicking, punching, slapping, pushing, cutting, and includes physically dominating another. It could involve controlling another's behavior, dictating subtly or otherwise who they can speak to, spend time with, what they can wear, and or where they can go, or even if they can leave the house. Or involves insisting that they know where the other person is all the time, and making up rules and ground rules which control and confine the other person. I had an experience where someone was telling me that their experience was when they were involved with their partner, that their partner made up ground rules that they couldn't talk to other men because that was kind of, that person said it was abusive to their relationship. So that person had made up a ground rule which they used for themselves to control their partner. It didn't work the other way around though. It was just one way. Someone making up a rule that controlled or confined someone's behavior. So controlling another's finances, withholding money, or another's ability to earn. Alternatively, it can include controlling the use of necessary equipment. I know someone who's recently had a child with a partner, and they don't live with their partner, or they kind of have it part of the week, but they can't use, there's a buggy, and they can't use that buggy. They can only use that buggy when they're with him. So it's just a way of controlling her behavior, because she can't obviously go out with her child unless you know, she's got the buggy. So he's using it as a way of controlling her behavior. So another type of domestic abuse is well, we've talked about coercive behavior, forcing a person to do something against their will. I think probably rape is the most extreme form of that, of coercing someone to do something against their will. Types of behavior, the other types of domestic abuse might be overstepping boundaries, reading another's letters, emails, text messages, going through their phone contacts and constantly answering for them, during answering or speaking up for them during discussions with others, harassing them as well, and actually following them around. And it can involve threatening to kill or harm someone, either themselves or family members or pets that the other person loves. So, what are the signs of domestic abuse when witnessed by children? So, children will show the effects of domestic abuse in a variety of different ways. But these are some of the main ones that I picked up and I've seen over the years. They may display guilty feelings and may blame themselves for the abuse. Children often blame themselves for things that their parents do. They may show or display aggressive and bullying behavior. So they may follow very much what they've seen, what they've been exposed to. They may truant and show a lack of engagement in school. They may display attention-seeking behavior and antisocial behavior, such as vandalism. They may present with anxiety, suicidal ideas, depression. They may self-harm and have eating disorders. They may engage in using drugs, alcohol, and other types of risky behavior, such as unprotected sex. Children can present with insomnia, bedwetting, nightmares. They can also present with other physical illnesses, physical pain, such as regular colds, headaches, stomach aches, mouth ulcers, or just feeling sick or weak. They may display problems such as tantrums, trouble concentrating or participating in school activities. Often children who have experienced this type of abuse can't concentrate. They have difficulty concentrating. They may have difficulty making or keeping friends and be easily startled and jittery and nervous and anxious. They may show regressive behavior. This shows often, well, with younger children, or you also see it with older children. But in young children, they may become more.
Sorry to interrupt you in your flow, but
Yeah.
Nadia, we've got the presentation up for you now, my darling. Can you see it on your screen?
Not for me, no.
Yeah, the presentation's now up on the screen.
Right, I haven't got, because right, hang on. Yes, I can see it, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, okay, right, okay.
Where would you like her to go?
Can you go back? Can you go back to the one before? That's it, I think that's the one I was on. No. Go forward, go to, that's it, I think it's, no, sorry. We were on, let's just see which one we were on. We were talking about I think we were talking about how, just bear with me. Right, yes. Yeah, that's fine, that's the one we're on. It threw me out.
Sorry
I didn't know where I was for a second. Okay, no, that's all right, no problem. So they may have difficulty making or keeping friends, be easily startled and jittery and anxious. And we talked about showing regressive behaviour. In young children, it's often quite observable. What might happen is they may become more clingy than usual. They may regress to thumb sucking, whining and stuttering. I think one of the things that's really important to recognise is when a child first observes an incident of domestic violence, and I noted this earlier when I talked about it earlier. I said that the first time a child might be observes or exposed to domestic violence, they may freeze because it's actually terrifying for them, and quite often parents don't realise that. But if they're exposed to it again, it becomes something that they're used to. They get used to it, and eventually they accept it. Eventually, it affects them. And I don't think this is the point. I think a lot of people who haven't got had that experience, or haven't been able to think about it, don't have that experience, don't realise it. It's the repeated things. That's how we learn as children. It's something that's repeated. If it's repeated often enough, it's no longer something that we fear because it's something we've got used to. And then it becomes something that is normal. And that's when it's a real problem, because that's when it's so much a part of ingrained into who you are that way, as you grow up, you can act that out. And I think that's what I think Ursula might have been talking about. That's what can happen with children. So over a period of time, of repeated exposure to domestic violence, they become accustomed to it because for them it has become so. And I think the other thing to say is that as with children, they don't have, like as adults, we can evaluate our parenting. We can look at, I don't know, our friends down the road or cousins or whatever, and evaluate whether this is normal behavior. As children, we cannot do that. We don't have that capacity to do that. The other thing we have to realize is that, as children, our parents are gods. Our parents are like everything. They are the world to us. They show us how we should be or how we shouldn't be. So we take that on that's gospel. We don't even look at it because that's who our parents are. That's who our parents are. That's how powerful parents are to the children. Most parents don't fully understand that. They don't recognize what they do. It's not because people are wicked all the time. People don't always realize what they're doing to their children. And also they're reliving, regurgitating their own program that they got from their parents. I think Mark and Ursula was talking about it's a cycle that's gone on and on for ages until someone actually breaks that cycle, which she did at great cost, but fantastically she's actually been able to do that. But most people don't do that. A lot of people just carry on the cycle that's continued for years. And it's so important that we actually recognize that. Okay, can we move on to the next slide? Okay, so the effects of domestic abuse on children, thank you. Children who are exposed to domestic abuse in the form of violence have a greater risk of being physically harmed. Now, there's a greater risk of them being physically harmed because they can get caught in the crossfire of when parents are fighting or whatever. Or they could be deliberately harmed as a way of controlling or punishing the other parent. So that's why they have a greater risk of it. Children who live with domestic violence are at a serious risk of long-term mental and physical health problems. Now, I didn't realize, I got some of this information from a Dr. Nadine Burke. She's a black woman. I think she might be American or she's Canadian, but you can look her up on YouTube, Dr. Nadine Burke, and she talks about adverse childhood experiences. And it's like, you just don't realize how many of us grow up with adverse childhood experience, of which domestic abuse is one, is a key one. It's as I said earlier, we, in all the cases in the 30+ years I've been a social worker, domestic abuse features in virtually all the cases. Sometimes it's a small amount, but it's always there. So it's that prevalent. But what we don't realise is the long-term impact on people's mental health, but not just their mental health, their physical health. There are studies which show they're more likely to have diabetes, they're more likely to have high blood pressure, they're more likely to have other problems that affect their quality of life. And that's stemming from the experience that they had at a very early age. I just don't think we realise how much all of that affects our life, our health, and of course, health affects very much our quality of life. Children living with domestic abuse are more likely to display violence in their future relationships. And I think we've alluded to that. And why that may be the case is the case often, not always the case, is because we said they're not aware of their programming. They've been programmed and they just follow on with that programming. And it's become normal to them. So whatever becomes normal, you don't even think about. And that's it. So in so many ways, when we think about things that become normal to us, we don't question it. And when we do that, we can harm others because we're not aware of it. We don't have that insight. Children continually exposed to domestic abuse may themselves become perpetrators, and thus the cycle of abuse continues into successive generations unless adequately addressed. And we've talked about that point. And yes, it is that difficult because it's, and I think that's what Ursula was talking about. That's my understanding of what she was talking about, is that it's so hard to address because it's a part of who you are. It's become who you are. You've lived it. Again, it's something you've learnt day in, day out on a daily basis. And that's another thing people don't realize. They think people think that it doesn't hurt, these things aren't hurting people because it's normal to them, and they can't see that they've already been harmed. People talk about oh yeah, I was abused, or I was beaten or something, but it didn't do me no harm, or it didn't harm me. But they're not actually able to recognize whether it harmed them or not, because it's already happened to them, and they're living with it, and that's who they are now. So when people talk about they're explaining their level of ignorance because they can't understand what's actually happened to them. Recently, I was going to just explain a little bit about a case I had, which was it's just interesting to me for a few reasons. I was involved with a case concerned a young couple, a father who had numerous mental health and drug misuse concerns. And he was considered to be violent. He was considered to be the one that's perpetrating the violence, and to an extent, he definitely was. But the mother was seen as the survivor, but actually it later came to light through a lot of police evidence that the mother, there were this constant whole range of police evidence about allegations and counter allegations involving the mother, not just with that partner, but with other people. And what became clear to me when I looked into her childhood, which is what you do often when you're doing an assessment of parents, is just the amount of that she grew up in an environment which involved where domestic violence, where domestic abuse was a constant feature all throughout her life. And so sometimes what we don't recognize is just how prevalent that is. And in this particular case, she actually wound people up. She didn't actually physically abuse them, but she was constantly aggravating people, constantly making allegations about people, constantly causing arguments. And that for me was part of her. That's how her domestic abuse showed itself up in her relationships with other people. And the common denominator, which is why I brought it up, was her. It wasn't her partner. It was only when we had all the police evidence came out that she had arguments with her partners, several arguments, and she would keep honor him. But she had also had several other arguments with other people, and she was the common denominator. And when I look back, it was all about her domestic abuse. I go on to discuss the effects of domestic abuse on children and how parents view the impact of abuse in my recent book, Family Court, Giving Evidence in the Family Court, which is available on Amazon. But really, do parents recognize the harm they expose their children to when parenting? Often parents will come and say, well, no, my child didn't see it, or my child didn't know about it, or my child didn't hear it, or it doesn't affect them, they haven't heard it, blah, blah, blah. They don't accept that their children have picked it up. Children are very aware of what's going on, that they can feel it. And they don't recognize that children are often looking at them, watching them. Very, very, very much so. And they're sponges. Children are sponges for what's going on. So parents are often in denial of what's going on, and they're kind to believe and argue, very strongly that in any case it doesn't harm the children. But as I said, they're arguing it from a position of what they think it is from their experience, but they're actually not able to look at it from their experience because they've already been harmed by that process. So. And it's become so natural to them, they can't see the harm that they're exposing their children to. So that's really the end of my presentation. And I just want to say thank you very much for everyone coming. And I've learned a lot because it's so powerful. The stories from the first story and the second, all the stories have been so powerful that you can't believe how powerful it is and how upsetting. But I think it's important that we recognise this, particularly for children growing up, where we are and who we are as parents. We're gods to our parents. This is how important we are, and we have to recognise that. And when we're arguing with them, it's like children, a little child watching God's fight. And we have to think about, put ourselves in our children's perspective, show that empathy, understand what it would be like from a child to see your parents fight. Even on the street, watching people fighting, it's ugly. It's always ugly. But as a child, when you're very small, and when you are reliant on these people, because you're reliant on them for your life, you've got to understand how much that is going to impact on your child. And it's not just today, but every day for the rest of their life.
Thank you so much for that. Oh gosh, it's just unfortunate we couldn't see all of the presentation, but we probably will do a part 2, but maybe do an evening session because it's quite a heavy subject for a Saturday morning. But you've been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing the work that you do, the fantastic work you do within our community and outside the community, protecting children, and people, understanding the trauma that, when they see violence, it does impact on them. And, to some degree, some of them might grow up to be perpetrators as well. Yes, I thank you very much for your presentation, Michael. Nadia, I'm going to quickly pop over to you to find out, what sort of comments have been coming into the session this morning. Are you there, Nadia?
Yes, I'm there, Jo.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm just a bit emotional, that's all. I can't even display. I'm really quite upset. you know, really this has been quite traumatic, and I'm sure there's a lot of us that it's brought tears to our eyes, like myself. I am finding that this has been very, very emotional, and looking at what some of the things that people have said, it's not really lots of direct questions, but things like the, you know, the transgenerational trauma. One thing that was really good was that Ursula was able to break that.
Yes.
And that's powerful. That's very, very, very powerful. And I think, you know, we should take from that. One question, how did you broach, Ursula, the subject with your children? So, you know, how did you actually begin to tell them, you know, that what you had experienced and what you didn't want them to experience?
Okay, so I started talking to my children from as soon as they could talk. When they were very little, I started talking to them about their body and about the different parts of their bodies and who was supposed to touch them, what inappropriate touching was, so that they could understand if they were ever at school away from mummy. That's the only place they ever went where they're out of my sight. They could understand who was to touch them, who wasn't. Because I didn't want the same thing happening to them. I didn't label their body parts. I didn't call their breast a name or their vagina tutu or something. No, it was just breast and vagina, because pedophiles can be very clever and they will, you know, call it another name. And so when you say to the child, if so-and-so touched your tutu, they'll say no, because that's not the name the pedophile is using. So it's important that I told them about the breast and the vagina and what's inappropriate touching. And then when they started getting a bit older, I think my eldest was about 6 or 7, then when I started talking to her about my own childhood abuse, and obviously I watered it down heavily for my child, because I needed her to understand why mummy was the way she was. I hid as much of it as I could from them, because I wanted to be that normal parent. I didn't want to be the different parent. So as early as possible, I started talking to them about mummy's abuse, because it was important for them to understand why mummy kept them away from the family, why they couldn't see their father. I didn't want them asking questions when they were older. And we tend to tell our children to hush or go away or be seen or not heard, and don't ask me that. But that's not helpful, and you do more damage when you're more open and honest with them from an earlier age. And every question, if it's the same question 30 times over, answer that question. Yeah, but why, mummy? But why, mummy? But why, mummy? And answer it with patience. Okay, because they're trying to process the information you've given them, and they need you to help them do that in a gentle way. So as early as possible, I spoke to my children about what happened to me, and that then helped them to process, okay, if mummy's disassociating now, we know why. And we know how to help mummy to come back if she's disassociated. But if I'm just disassociating, or I'm just shouting at them, or I'm just lashing out for no reason, why is mummy behaving like, and why I don't. So as early as possible, speak to them about the abuse.
Fantastic. That was
Any
the main thing.
themes that are coming? Just one more, I know we're so behind. Any more themes that are coming through?
Themes that's coming through, that everybody is in awe, and you know, everything that you've done is a journey that we can all learn from. Absolutely, in making sure that we can break this you know, the generational thing. And I think that's the biggest learning from this. I'm just going through and seeing that it's so true. And again, what, you know, Michael has said, you know, about parents not thinking that children are recognizing what's going on. They do. I think those are the powerful themes from that. Obviously they all want everyone's information on the chat.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that's brilliant. Thank you. You know, thank you for you know, those support from everybody. Everybody is in awe of what's happened from, you know, but from Barker's, everyone, all the speakers have given us some very, very important things to you know, think about in our lives. Yeah. So thank you all.
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much for that. I'm going to be winding down the session in a bit, but I've got the fantastic Doretta. She's going to be leading the Queen's Walking Group in Manchester, and she'd like to read a poem this morning, and it's called "It Hurts." So Doretta, when you're ready, my darling, if you could read that poem for us.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Yeah, the poem is called "It Hurts." Fantastic presentations this morning, very tearful. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts when you call me names. It hurts. When you laugh at me, it hurts. When you control me in the way that belittles me, it hurts. When you treat me like a fool, it hurts. When you shout at me like a child, it hurts. When you make my heart sad, it hurts. When you make my tears fall from my eyes, it hurts. When you disrespect me, it hurts. When you touch me, it hurts. Yes, it hurts. It hurts so much that I just want to scream. I want to scream and run and run and run and run and run with no return. I just want to be happy, to have respect, to have peace, to enjoy life, but I cannot. Because what you do hurts. It hurts. It hurts me deep down inside. And you just don't care. You don't care. You don't understand me. It hurts. Imagine if you could press a pause button and just make it stop. Just imagine. Imagine if you could press the rewind and go back to where it all went wrong and change it all. Imagine. Oh, imagine if you could change it. Just imagine how it would be. I didn't sign up for the heartache, but in life we know there'd be a few, but nothing we couldn't get through. I signed up to love you through thick and thin, till death do us part, to enjoy our family, our life, and our future till end of days, our children, our family. And God knows I'm doing my best to see this through. But just know, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts when you do the horrible things that you do. It hurts. Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful, beautiful poem. And a lot of us, I mean, I felt that this morning. That was really deep. Thank you for sharing that with us. Did you write that, Doretta? I know you've gone off screen. Did you write that poem?
Yes, I write all my poems.
Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
do. I write all my poems. This is one that I wrote. Like I say, I've been talking to ladies that are going through mental abuse, physical abuse, and emotional abuse. So I just write things as well. So I do a lot of writing.
Well,
But
thank you for sharing.
Very, very painful.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
ladies.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Now, what I'm going to do is open up the floor to guests on the platform. I'm going to take probably about 2 or 3 questions. So if you could please put your hand up in the participants, if you know how to put your hand up. If you could say who you are, where you're calling in from. Yeah, and if you could please have your camera on, because we don't really like talking to a black screen or a blank screen, so to speak. So if anybody would like to ask a question, please put your hand up in the chat. And yes, you can ask one of our panelists this morning. I know we're running quite behind time, but you can ask one of the panelists a question. If I don't get anything in a half a minute or so, I'm going to ask my guests to say their final parting message. My presenters to say their final parting message on the platform, but just to thank everybody and to also emphasize the email that was sent out with the Zoom link confirming your ticket booked for this event. You will have details on there of organizations to contact if you're seeking help or support. So just to emphasize that. We are a walking group, so if anybody wants to follow the Queen's Walking Group on Eventbrite to hear about any future events, please follow us on Eventbrite, and it's the Queen's Walking Group. And also, as a reminder, I said it earlier on in the Zoom session that the event is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you look for the Queen's 2020 lockdown series, or if you put in Queen's Black Hair Rocks, you'll bring it up that way. So please like, share, comment, subscribe, and then you'll be alerted when future Zoom sessions are uploaded onto the YouTube channel. So I don't think anybody's got any questions because no one's put their hand up. So if I could ask each of our panelists then if they have a parting message. So let me go back to Colette. Colette, my darling, do you have a parting message for the guests on the platform as we wind this session down?
Well, it has been truly, truly informative. I've learned a lot. Ursula, I thought I'd worked and seen it all, and then you come along, this powerful woman who shared her story. And again, thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists that brought in that richness about the children, about their personal journey, and to everyone that was putting into the group chat various resources, which was brilliant. Is it okay to hail out someone? Marga. Thank you for, is it Marga or Marja, who was putting in the chat about her experience, and it really connected with me, how she was feeling and the way that things have been for her. So it was good, again, to bring that richness. Again, let us talk about this. Let us break the cycle. Don't live in silence anymore is my parting words.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Barke, are you still with us, my darling?
I am, and thank you. I had a question on the chat and I answered to Sophia. The question was really just asking about if I told anyone about.
Can't hear you properly, Barke. Your internet is really playing up this time.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's a bit better.
Okay.
What was the question that came up?
The question that came out was from Sophia.
Okay.
And she was just asking my sister, did we see what was going through? It's just she was asking about if anyone saw what's going on with me or what, the people around me. But the only person I would say was my sister, who she used to come to my house. My husband used to hate her because she used to come unannounced sometimes. And so he couldn't, get to the act sometimes. And so she would see more of it. So when I asked for divorce, she told my auntie who lives in United Kingdom, but because we're not that close, because of the way the relationship is just really not that great. But nobody believed me when I started wanting to share with the family. They thought, because he was a quiet man, he was very good host when he's around people. He loves children. And so everyone thought I'm making things up. So nobody wanted to hear my story. Nobody wanted to listen to what I'm saying. And so I had to shut down, and I couldn't tell that to anyone, especially my close relatives. And so what happened is that I had to talk to strangers, and I had to, because when I talk to stranger, I know it's not gonna come back to me. So I will just download it and that's it, let it go. And I found that really healing for me.
And that is when I was just like, I had to look after, because my life, the way I went through, I didn't want that for my daughter. And especially when he knew and he noticed that it doesn't work with me, and he started doing that to my daughter. And that also, the relationship between my son and my daughter was really bad. And so my daughter, near the end, she said to me, Mom, if you don't do anything about it, I would run away. And that, for me, that was my kind of like, gate has been open. There's no more staying. There's no more anything. I have to do this for my child. And that's when I walked away with a head held up high, because I'm doing this for my child and my children. And today I am proud for my daughter to even say to me, Mom, you're my hero. And saying and being here, and my daughter, she's in uni, my son is in college, and I'm in uni myself, because I want to help women, and I want to ensure that it doesn't happen to other women. And if it is happening, what they can do about it, and what they can actually work on themselves, and what stages they can take that. And that's why I had to open up as a speaker, an empowerment speaker, as a coach, and as a mentor. I went to job center and I helped children to actually be confident in who they are before they go to talk to interviews. I talk to in the churches, mosques, because it's also to do with also religion. Where you come from, religion is the biggest part, especially for Muslim women or women who believe in God. You're not supposed to say that. That shouldn't be saying, that shouldn't be done. It's sin, don't do that. It's your husband, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, I break the chains and I break the wheel and say, no, read the religion properly. It doesn't say it's okay for you to get abused. You need to understand your religion for you to actually get up and walk away and be the person you're meant to be. You're born for a reason. So claim your spot in this life right now, because nobody's going to do it for you. Thank you very much.
That's a powerful message to the guests on the platform. Thank you. Michael, what's your parting message to guests on the platform? Because we didn't get anybody come forward with any questions, which is fine.
My parting message, a few things. One is I better just say hello to a couple of people. I better say hello to Millie Reed, who is I saw Millie, I've seen your thing, your messages come up. We went to college together. We were one of 5 Black students so many years ago, a long time ago, when we worked together in South Bank. Anyhow, so hi Millie, it's really nice to see you or hear of you. I want to say thank you to Zora Johnson, because without Zora Johnson, I wouldn't be on this Zoom now. So I just want to say thank you to her, because she's such a good friend. And I want to say thank you to all the speakers, but also and all the people have come to listen to this. But I want to say that I think, just to be very aware about who we are as parents for our children, and understanding that is so important for our children, but also as men for women, in relation to women, there's a lot we can do, us men, as being much more supportive. We can be warmer people. We can make the world together a much warmer, better place. There's so much rubbish that's going on outside, so much nonsense. This week with Mrs. Meghan Markle, and there's so much stuff that people are still somehow cocooned in their boxes and not looking at things. And instead of looking at racism, what they're looking at is they're not looking at racism. They're trying to hide everything else. But that's what we do, and we can do the same with parenting. We can, instead of looking at what's really happening, let's look at it from our children's point of view. Let's look at it from the women's point of view. Let's look at it from the point of view of the people who are suffering. And let's value what they have to say. Listen to it. Learn from it, because we can if we care enough. And we can make the world a much better place if we take that time and effort and empathy we can do that. That's what I want to say. Big up, my book's out there, so go and get it. No, actually, I'm having a launch. I'll let everyone know when my launch is. But
Well, as I said before, if everybody could put their contact details into the chat,
yeah,
and you know, those of you on laptops, you know how to save the chat, because there's lots of information in there, lots of people who've been on the platform who are from other organizations working in the field of domestic violence. So that's been absolutely fantastic, the traction that's there, and the people that have come onto the platform this morning. So there is help out there. So, you know, please look at the chat, and if you can save the chat, do so. All presenters, if you could please put your contact details into the chat. And I'm going to go to my final presenter, Ursula. What's your final parting message to guests on the platform, please, my darling?
3 very quick points. Safe space is 2 buzzwords that's, you know, used so randomly now. And so in my mind, inappropriately, you know, people say, oh, create safe spaces, come to this place, it's a safe space, come to my building, this say my house is a safe. I say to people all the time when I do my cultural awareness training, I can say to you, come to my house, it's a safe space. This is brick, this is mortar. You are the safe space. Your face is my safe space. Your body language, your tone is my safe space. Be somebody else's safe space. Be your child's safe space. When they come to you, fix your face. When your husband comes and says, honey, I'm struggling at work, you're no longer a safe space. What's wrong? You're now a safe space. Be somebody's safe. You're not a safe space anymore. So stop telling people to come to your business, your work. You are the safe space for somebody else. The second point is learn to time block. Time block. Tomorrow between 3 and 5, I'm going to shut my phone off for 2 hours. Tomorrow between 6 and 7, I'm going to block the kids out for an hour. Next week, Wednesday, I'm going to take the day off. Learn to time block. Yeah. And mean it when you say it. And the third and final thing is, we spend our lives upgrading. We upgrade our car. We want the best car. We upgrade our houses. We upgrade the wife. We get the younger one. We upgrade the husband. We get the younger one. We upgrade the body. We fix it. Upgrade your self-care. If you want to upgrade something, upgrade your self-care. If, especially in the current climate we're living in, if before lockdown 5 minutes in the bath wasn't working, do 10. If the walking for 20 minutes wasn't working, do an hour. Whatever it is, spending 20 minutes away from the kids isn't enough, spend an hour away from the kids. Sex every day of the week is too much, cut it down to 2 days. Just to upgrade. If you want to upgrade something, upgrade your self-care.
Well, that is a powerful message. And in actual fact, this time block, I do it now because you can when you sort of like do certain things, and I do a lot of stuff, even in lockdown, it's draining.
Yes.
It's draining and it pulls you down, and it gets hard sometimes to be that resilient, bouncy person, because every day something's on you. People want you, people are ringing you, they're WhatsApping you, they're texting you, and all the rest of it. So now, Sunday, most day in my bed. Monday, I'm still relaxing, no whole heap of calls, so people can talk to me now. Tuesday down to part of Saturday, and then that's it. So well said, Queen, well said. Thank you to all my fabulous presenters. It's been quite a journey this morning. You know, when I thought about putting on this session, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning, I thought, you know, how are we going to roll with this? But it's been tight. It's been, in a way, it's been quite intimate, the kind of, you know, experiences that have been shared. And, you know, as professionals now, you know, seeing yourself, Ursula and Barke, come through to be the absolute phenomenal, magnificent, powerful women that you are. You know, you have touched so many people this morning. Your stories are so powerful, so powerful. So I always say this, but I mean, definitely, I think we have to do a part 2 of this, but most probably in the evening, not in the morning. So thank you all, thank you all, thank you all. Powerful. And just to remind people, you know, those who booked via Eventbrite, there are contact details of organisations that you can seek help from. The presenters are going to put into the chat their contact details, and it just bids me to say, you know, have a fantastic Saturday, those of you that can. And just remember, there's help out there. There are organisations out there up and down the country. You know, there's lots of different ways you can tap into resources, into help. So, you know, please, if you're trying to escape something, you know, just do it. Yeah, just do it. Just do it. I do lots of things, you know, when I think about even though it's hard to even compare, but, you know, when I think about when I started to Zoom, you know, I was scared, but, you know, say, feel the fear and do it anyway, you know, and we're all Zooming now, we're all doing lots of different stuff. And it's about coming out of your comfort zone and knowing that, you know, there are people out there with good hearts, good minds that are willing to help you. So on that note, I'm going to wish you all a fantastic Saturday. Thank you all for coming on to the Zoom platform. I'm not sure what I'm doing next week. I think it's going to be I think it's Queen's Women's Health. I think that's what I'm doing next week. I'm not sure. But I'm going to end the recording. And thank you all for being on the platform. It's been quite a journey. Thank you. So before I forget, follow the Queen's Walking Group on Eventbrite, Queen's Walking Group, to be alerted when our next session is going to be. It's every Saturday we Zoom, every Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. This Zoom session has been recorded, will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel. And yeah, that's it. I can't say any more. Queens, Kings on the platform, have a fantastic, wonderful Saturday. Thank you all.